Hi guys, how yous all doing? So Stoomboy, MMA UK, the BJJ show. So today, special guest, a very, very good friend of mine, the John Danaher of Scottish Jiu-Jitsu, the Jiu-Jitsu Yoda, Giles Garcia. Now, Giles, that's what I call him. As I said, obviously, me and Giles have been good friends. We go out on our mandates. So we've not been on one in a while because obviously everything that's going on. But we're going to hear obviously a good bit about Giles. Obviously, Giles got a good bit of competition experience, good background in jiu-jitsu, as well as other martial arts as well. Recently got his black belt from Christian. Now, I can't pronounce his second name very well.
Christian Graugart.
So got his black belt from them. So we'll hear from him. So we'll hear a bit about that. Obviously, how the black belt came about and stuff like that. So, Giles, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. I know I've been trying to get you on for a while. So how have you been?
Well, firstly, before anything else, I'd like to say it's an honour to be interviewed by the one and only King Stoom. King of trash talking on the scene. It would be a much duller community without you. So
yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
It's been absolutely nuts recently, actually. Obviously, the pandemic has, thrown a spanner in the works in some ways, and it's kind of illuminated other aspects of life which need more attention. Yeah, it's been a mixed bag. Let's put it that way. Obviously, the recent thing you've alluded to, me getting my black belt, that was a story in and of itself, and that was emotional, as some people no doubt be aware. So, and as well as that, I'm having to quarantine at the minute. They changed the rules before I flew out to Poland for the Globetrotters camp. So that was not ideal, but, it's day 10 of the quarantine. Me and my partner, Cristiana, have not killed each other yet. That's a positive. Silver linings, let's stay positive. That's the way I see
it. So obviously we know as well, Cristiana's a nurse. So obviously Cristiana's been kind of frontline for from the start. So obviously she's kind of seen everything that's going on and stuff like that. So and what about you then, Giles? So obviously the lockdown. I mean, obviously your gym. I mean, there's a few kind of anniversaries you've had. I mean, obviously getting your black belt there. Obviously your gym as well, turning a year old. So that just turned a year old as well. So in regards to the gym, I mean, how's everything going with the gym?
Yeah, I mean, well, I first started the club itself on the 17th of October 2018. And we moved into the full-time premises in Rutherglen on the 22nd of September 2019. It's been a real whirlwind, to be honest with you. And honestly, I remember before I actually even considered opening the club in the first place, I spoke to my old kickboxing instructor, Steve Robinson, always a font of good, solid working wisdom. And I said to him, should I do this? He said, Giles, I'm warning you, it's a massive pain in the backside. Are you sure? Are you really sure you want to do this? I said, yeah. Man, I've never done so much bloody paperwork in my life. I've got paper coming out my bloody ears. I'm half my job paperwork. So, I mean, by the way, am I allowed to swear?
Swear all you want, mate. Swear all you want. This is the. It's after 9 o'clock, so it's past the watershed. So hopefully all the kids are in their bed. But if not, there's going to be some colourful language. So we should get a parental advisory sticker put up. In fact, I might say that to Peter Knox. We'll get a parental advisory sticker.
You're gonna have to get disclaimers. Put disclaimers on it saying warning due to the graphic nature of the video. Getting back to the topic of the club, it's been obviously the pandemic kind of has really thrown a spanner in the works because a lot of people in the club were gearing up for competition. We're really looking forward to it. People were super hyped for it, and then obviously pandemic hit and it shelved it. And one of the things we'll probably talk about is about how, well, for me anyway, I feel as though the Scottish government has been really heavy-handed with the restrictions, and they've not listened to the evidence gathered by a lot of different bodies, such as the UK BJJ and their elite athletes program, which has been great for, you know, showing just how safe pretty much the majority of combat sports academies are in times of COVID. So yeah, it's been a mixed bag. A lot of difficulties, anxiety about, you know, will we be able to keep the gym open, and just all different things that I assume we go through a lot of different gym owners' minds at this point in time. And having spoken to a bunch of people in the community, it is a concern. But you know, we're pressing on. I've got a great bunch of students behind me, always pushing. Cristiana, obviously, she does so much of the heavy lifting in the background in terms of paperwork and ideas. So, and I've got a great team behind me. So, there's Peter, of course.
Peter as well, just saying, obviously, better safe than sorry. So, yeah, he is right there. I mean, to that point, I mean, the one thing about, Jiu-Jitsu, I can only go by Jiu-Jitsu, is the one thing that we have as gyms. I mean, a lot of Jiu-Jitsu gyms are, we kind of control ourselves when it comes to like illnesses and stuff like that. So, I mean, we, when anybody gets an illness, let's say you get a cold, then you get grief from everybody in the gym. I mean, like, why are you in the gym? Go home, blah, blah, blah. And the same with different things like maybe ringworm or anything. So would coronavirus be any different? I mean, is it going to be any different where, are we not going to kind of govern it the same way as a gym owner? Or do you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure we'd be doing exactly the same stuff. Yeah,
I reckon as time goes on, that may well be the case. The only problem is because of the sensitive nature of the issue right now, it's thorny. It really is a thorny issue at this point. Whichever way you slice it, hospital beds are filling up. So, you know, to simply say, it's fine, we'll self-police. To say that we'll self-police isn't going to wash with a lot of people, including the authorities. However, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that the government's been heavy-handed, and we could use the training bubble plan, for example, as suggested in the UK BJJ, and put forward to the Department for Culture, Media and Sport in England, for example, and it's been put to Public Health England. And I see no reason why it shouldn't be the same up here, really. And furthermore, that's why I've written to our MSP, to the First Minister's office, and to pretty much any minister, and it was got anything to do with health and or sport. I've said to them, look, the common sense approach would be at these various levels, let some form of training bubbles occur. I'm constantly speaking with colleagues and gym owners that I know in Germany, in the Netherlands, in Belgium, for example, where they've got, obviously they're dealing with the pandemic as well. The training bubble method has actually been successful, and it's been very low risk, allowing some sort of normality in their lives, which is important, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Peter mentioned just there. Peter saying, obviously, the stats back up that the virus hasn't really spread via gyms. I mean, I think there was a case, they did a test in Norway. I can't remember how many thousand people it was, but they tested so many thousand people, and out of everybody, one person got coronavirus. And that one person hadn't even been to the gym. So, and they got coronavirus, but they were adding that in as a stat. But then obviously when they spoke to the person, they said, well, I never got coronavirus from the gym. I got it from my work. So, so obviously the stats are backing it up that it's not coming anywhere near the gyms. So,
I mean, obviously we have to be careful over the next few days, because whichever way you slice it, the numbers are going up a bit, and so I don't know how it's going to play out. I think the Scottish government is still debating, you know, which tiers or levels to put council areas in at this point in time. I don't think we'll know until late on tomorrow or Friday. But certainly it's something I don't want them to forget us again, like they've already done so. Cristiana and I did meet with our MSP. Thankfully, their office is across the road from our academy, so we invited them in, got to see, and they almost seemed shocked. It's almost like they were expecting, you know, martial arts academies to be dirty. It's like, no, actually, I think you'll find we're very fucking clean.
Oh yeah, we all are. I mean, even gyms that have been around for years. I mean, there's still that cleanliness in a lot of gyms. They do follow the. I mean, there's you've got to be clean. I mean, especially things like not just coronavirus, but I mean ringworm. I mean, ringworm is an absolute nightmare, and ringworm spreads very quickly. So
also, yeah. So, and as well as that, I think that the majority of people who go to jiu-jitsu are generally quite considerate of their training partners, and they're, they'll go, I've got a cold, I best stay away, or I'm not feeling so good, I should probably stay away. That's part and parcel of what we do anyway. So I think it just builds a picture of gyms, generally speaking, being safe. Well, I mean, I've got to be honest with you, having worked as a waiter in restaurants and whatnot, I reckon gyms are safer than pubs and restaurants to an extent. So yeah, that's my take on it. I think we should be allowed some sort of training bubbles, and I think we should not be dismissed by the Scottish government again, because at the end of the day, I truly believe that combat sports, jiu-jitsu, MMA, all the rest of it, we in a way save lives, because we help bolster people against physical and mental harms.
Definitely.
The number of people who have found jiu-jitsu or MMA or any other sort of combat sports, or even regular physical activities at the gym, the amount of people who have had various psychological issues and traumas that they've had to deal with, they've found that going to jiu-jitsu or rowing or sparring has helped so much for it, and gives them a coping mechanism, healthy coping mechanisms, I might add. And obviously the physical benefits go without saying. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and then obviously James McIntyre, Mr. Scottish Grappling. Do you know what I seem to have? I seem to have a nickname for almost everybody in jiu-jitsu in Scotland. So, So Mr. Scottish Grappling, James McIntyre. So obviously the figures that he offered back in August to the Scottish government, as well as obviously strategies that were very successful in England and Wales, were totally dismissed by the Scottish government. And again, it's not just obviously UK BJJ doing a lot. I remember Davy Galbraith obviously setting up the kind of protest outside Holyrood, and obviously you and Cristiana sending letters or sending emails to different people. I sent an email. I remember it was a hilarious one. I sent an email to the Scottish Tory. He was the leader of the Scottish Tories at the time. I can't even remember his name now. He resigned later on that day. So I'd emailed him about 11 o'clock in the morning, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he resigned. And I'm thinking...
That was the story.
Because I basically went in and I was like, obviously, because he's my local MSP. Okay, so I was like, right, okay, I'd emailed someone else, and then I thought, right, I'm going to email this guy. He's my local MSP. All right, my gym or any gym's not in our local area, but I'm going to email this guy. And I was basically like, well, look, you were voted for. You're my local MSP, so it's your job to try and sort this out. I mean, we need this sorted out. And then later on that day, he resigned, and I was thinking, what? So, but
he was like, no, I've had it.
But I mean, he came back. I mean, not him personally, but one of his, obviously his office staff came back and said, look, he's 100% behind you guys. Whatever you guys want to do. Do you know what I mean? As long as it's, we're not going out and kicking off and smashing stuff up and all that, then they're 100% behind us. So I'd done that, and then I knew a few other people as well, not just in jiu-jitsu, but martial arts, kickboxing, and like kind of own weights gyms and stuff like that. I'd all done stuff. And we'd all sent over different things. Like we were picking up, like I would pick up things from you and Cristiana or from Davy Galbraith and put it in an email. But again, it was just not ignored. I don't know if it was ignored, but it was just we're no further forward than we were 6 months ago.
I mean, obviously, I should also highlight as well, David Galbraith and Gillian McCulloch have done a great deal of work over at New Life. Obviously, Davy's been involved and set up a new body. They're trying to push ahead in their front. Davy, he wanted to go with the protest because he felt that was an effective method of grabbing attention. And to be fair, that obviously turned some heads.
It definitely did, yeah.
Yeah, I tend to do better. The kind of subtle, write millions of letters and emails and kind of politely nudging people and then more forcibly nudging people into doing things. I think we've been dismissed, frankly. That's the way I see it. And as I said previously, obviously we put our latest form of proposals forward. For example, I called my MSP's office a couple of days ago, and I said, look, here's some of the proposals that that has been proposed by the national governing body. I really think you should consider this. Could our MSP please advocate on our behalf? Because it was one of our staff members at the office I was speaking to. He says, well, your MSP can't really advocate on your behalf. It's like, right, can you not at least put it in front of the right people? I mean, is that not the point of an elected representative, to put forward your concerns and, I don't know, advocate on your behalf?
Yeah.
So I just feel that we've been brushed aside. Hence, if people ultimately decide to break regulations when these new tiers come in, then I hate to see it, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Has it been talked about though? I mean, do we know? Like, obviously, in whatever the Scottish Parliament. I say I don't know. I don't know. I've never seen the Scottish Parliament. I don't know. I know they talk about stuff, but has this been talked about?
I know that prior to August 31st, they were discussing specific support packages for gyms and whatnot in terms of financial remuneration or grants and whatnot. But beyond that, I've not heard any word of this being presented or in any way raised at Holyrood in any way, shape, or form. The fact that I haven't heard anything from a variety of different contacts does alarm me somewhat. And I suppose it's not totally unexpected, but it is disappointing, frankly.
Definitely. Yeah. And then James McIntyre saying as well, cases left and right and centre in schools. Obviously, no restrictions there now. Obviously, I know that my daughter, obviously your niece is as well, Giles. I mean,
thank you.
Yeah, so they're the local schools in obviously the Mairns, and what they're doing is my daughter, or Faith, what she was doing, she was going to school, and then they said, okay, you're going to have to wear masks in the corridors, right? So obviously going from class to class or going out for lunch, going out for a break, you need to wear a mask, which none of them are doing now. And then there's certain classes, I know that she was talking about the French class, that you have to wear a mask in the French class, and that's for the full, 45 minutes, 50 minutes of a class. But then cases are still going. I mean, we had one of Faith's friends, both mum and dad, contracted coronavirus. So this boy is now not at school. He's awaiting a test. And obviously with Faith, she's still got to go to school until he gets his test back. And then if his test comes back positive, then Faith, because it's a friend of hers, she needs to then go for a test as well. So, I mean, schools are... I mean, you're going to get cases at schools. I mean, this is the thing. They said, let's get the schools back because kids don't get coronavirus. I mean, that was one thing that I heard one of the MPs down south saying, kids don't get coronavirus.
Well, obviously, at the end of the day, we know that isn't strictly the case. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we know there's some things we know for certain. We know that overall in the UK and in Scotland, cases are going up pretty fucking rapidly. We know that much. We know that hospital beds are filling up pretty fucking fast. That we also know. And lastly, we know that, yes, kids do get coronavirus. So, we at least have some solid ground to work with.
Yeah.
So we at least have to recognise that before we start going to discussing anything else. Obviously, they've taken the decision to try and reopen gyms again because whichever way you slice it, kids need to learn, and studying all at home is, having all the kids at home, staying at home all the time, therefore strain on the workforce in terms of childcare. Who looks after the kids while they're studying at home. It's a nightmare. It's a logistical nightmare, so I can see why they've done it. But I don't think anyone's really got a perfect solution at this point. Some governments are coping better than others. Some are a bit of a disaster. Some are doing well in some areas. Some have absolutely fucked it in other areas.
Definitely. And then Cristiana putting a link up there as well. So that link is, so that's a link for prelim data from Europe-wide research showing low level of transmission. Is that level of transmission within gyms, or is that
specifically within gyms?
Yeah. So obviously we'll put that up there. So that's the link there. Anybody wants to have a look, then certainly can have a look and see. Obviously, and this is I think this is studies that they've been doing then.
Doing studies for the past few months now. This is obviously a Europe-wide thing. A lot of gyms are obviously very concerned they've been demonized in a way, or people don't feel safe at them. So they've been trying to reassure their members, saying, no, actually, due to the measures we put in place, please don't worry. Don't be worried. You know, it is actually relatively safe, so long as we take these particular precautions. And also, they're trying to talk about the benefits of coming to a gym. You know, because let's put it this way: if people are relatively fit and healthy, their chances of catching the virus are lowered. I don't, by what percentage, I couldn't possibly say. I'm not that clever. And we also know that the chances of them dying from the coronavirus or being severely ill with it are reduced. Not much we do know. So let's, you know, I can only speak to general points because I'm not that clever, but you know, we've got some data to work with. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Jamie Tervitt, sorry. Black belts matter. So black belts matter. And then obviously Peter as well, talking about not just schools. So his work carries on normal, even though he tested positive, because Peter tested positive. I think it was a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago. So he's only just out of the woods now, and obviously trying to get back to normal. But yeah, Peter was very quiet on Facebook for about a week, which was unusually quiet. So
I was going to say, actually, not right.
So whenever you don't see Peter on Facebook, it's usually something's up. So, but he still managed in the background. He was obviously helping us guys out at MMA UK News, obviously getting us up and running, and it's still trying to do stuff, but yeah, kind of limited to what he would normally do. So yeah, his work carried on just as normal, even though he had that positive. So, and we've got Ryan Middleton saying you've refereed a few comps that he's competed in. Great official, and congratulations on the black belt.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Yeah, I suppose that's one of the things. That's one of the things I'm known for a lot these days. I can't think why. Doesn't make any sense to me, frankly. I don't see why people would. Yeah. I suppose if we're talking about me refereeing, the reason why people probably know me as that is because I referee quite a lot of the Scottish grappling tournaments, and also because I've got a real stick up my ass about doing it right, frankly.
High energy, man. I mean, anybody who watches Giles, I mean, it's high energy, a lot of jumping about, very right into it. Do you know what I mean? So he'll jump down whenever I fight. Maybe if there's a submission on the go, Giles will be right down, and he'll be low down on the mat, watching, making sure everybody's safe and stuff like that. So,
yeah. I mean, the thing is that for me, it's the same with all aspects in life. If you actually care about it, I'm very black and white. It's either I'm not going to bother Mars, or I'm doing this. It's got to be done right. And I've done a bit of flack, and I even got asked by the head ref for the UK BJJ. He said, "Can you keep this pace up? Can you actually concentrate?" I was like, "Yes." He was like, "Okay, carry on." Because, I mean, from when I started jiu-jitsu, like about 13 years ago, I can't remember when I competed actually. My first competition I ever did was at the Glasgow Caledonian University, and it was at the ARC, the sports centre there. That's the very first comp I did. I can't remember when that comp was. It can't have been too long after I started. But ever since I've been competing, I've had good refs and I've had bad refs. And I've had bad refs like in all the sort of different tournaments, including I've had bad decisions. Been on the wrong end of bad decisions at some of the IBJJF tournaments as well that I've competed in. And that just really boils my piss, frankly. It's disgraceful. I fucking hate bad refs. Bad refs are a blight upon the sport. They're a blight upon humanity, and they need to go. And that's why I resolved to not be a bad referee. I try and make sure that I study the rules on a regular basis. I try and, depending on the rule set, for example, at my academy, I will sometimes referee rounds with my students, and I'll kind of score in my head. I'll try and catch things. I'll always make sure that it's in my head. That was it. 2007 first competition. I've actually got photographs somewhere of me as a white belt looking very fucking nervous, tying my belt. I didn't have all this. I was completely clean shaved. I had like a buzz cut or some other fucking terrible haircut. And that was my first ever comp experience. Is that Jamie Harvey buttering me up again? Oh.
So yeah, your fight catchphrase is iconic and motivating as Bruce buffers "It's time."
Jesus Christ, just fucking kill me now and carve that on my fucking headstone.
Do you know what? Listen, Giles, we've not heard it. I can't remember when was the last Scottish grappling competition. When was the last time you refereed? Was it SGI just March time?
It was SGI March, I believe. I think it was anyway. So yeah, that was the last time I got to use the iconic phrase "fight," which really scares the shit out of some competitors. I don't think why. So.
Especially as a white belt, I mean, coming in as a white belt, and then, as I said, it's obviously an honour watching you and even being refereed by you, because, as I say, you know that everything's above. I mean, everybody's safe, because that's the one thing. I mean, when you're refereeing, you're making sure that everybody's safe. You're making sure everything's done properly. If anybody's breaking rules, you're there to do it. I mean, that's what a referee's there to do, and you do it to a high level. And us as well. I mean, because again, I've only been refereeing for, I don't know, about maybe just over a year, maybe a couple of years. And even now I can go to you and say, well, look, Giles, do you know what I mean? This happened or that happened. What do you think? Do you know what I mean? So I've always got you there, or even James McIntyre there as well, and just getting that advice. So so when you were coming up as a referee, I mean, who did you have?
I mean, I've got to be honest, one of the people I used to pick the brains of a lot was Alan Howcroft. Alan has always been a source of steady information, and also there's been a lot of times I've pestered James McIntyre as well. Like, I've gone to him like after a match or something, I've said, look, I've done this in the match, or said this in the match, what is this correct? And then he will kind of advise me, or he'll tweak. And obviously I've been watched by like Marcelo Coppa as well. Marcelo has been excellent in terms of guiding me, and he's also been really supportive of me during the lockdown as well, I've got to say. So I've got to give a shout out to him for that. He's been really good.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of people I've kind of gone to when I've been like, right, I'm unsure. I don't know what the bloody hell's going on here. It's either that, or I will just read through the rules and I'll YouTube it, and then eventually I'll pick someone's brains about it. And there's even some stuff now I'm not sure about. Like, for example, there's a particular technique called the Capizzi lock. And it's basically it's a attack that attacks the forearm. So it's almost like a kind of forearm break. Yeah. But I'm worried in case some referees see it as a bicep crush, but it's not. So even now, I'm in the mindset of, when I'm teaching my students, do I teach them stuff which is clearly a legal technique, or do I then also risk teach them stuff which is legal, but I'm worried in case a bad referee sees it as something else? And, you know, for example, if there's people like you or I refereeing, then I'd be content to teach them these techniques. But then if it's a really shit referee, you know, they might be, illegal, and then, you know, DQ, and that's it, done. So that's one of the things. And one of the reasons why I take it so seriously is because I think long term, you know, when we referee, to us, it's just our regional competition, our local competition. But to someone just starting out, that if they get a good, you know, if they get a good referee, they end up winning their matches, they get gold, and that spurs them on to greater things. They go regional, then national, then they do one of the competitions. Before you know it, it becomes their life, it becomes their passion. It might even end up being one thing they do for the rest of their life. You know what I mean? It could be their career. That's the way we see it. Whereas if they get a bad referee, they think this is shit and they sack it. That's the way I see it. We're trying to hold ourselves to the highest standard possible so that we can encourage the future of sport to come through, have a positive experience. And even if they lose, they can always say, okay, well, it wasn't a case of being a shit referee. It's these things I need to work on. And they're still encouraged to compete and keep on trying. And I don't know, the way I look long term, I look at the future of the sport and of the art. And you know, for example, I once heard allegedly Royce Gracie said that Scotland at one point was 10 years behind the rest of the world in terms of BJJ. And to be honest with you, fuck him. Fuck Royce Gracie for saying that. I think we've got some of the best talent in the UK, in Europe. We've got, I mean, Christ, the list is too long. We've got guys like Cameron Donnelly, we've got Craig McIntosh, obviously, we've got Kevin McAloon. I could go on. We've got, obviously, we've got Marcus Nadini. We've got all these high-level grapplers who've competed on Polaris, Grapple Fest, all sorts. We've got guys up and coming. And for then someone to so brazenly say that Scotland is 10 years behind, I mean, obviously, they should be fucking eating their words now, frankly. That's the way I see it. Scottish grappling is awash with talent, and no one can deny that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then Ryan Middleton, what's your biggest pet hate when refereeing?
Oh, my pet hate. I've got a few. Yeah, I think one of them is when a competitor gets to a scoring position and then they look at me with that look like saying, "Come on, ref, give me my point." It's like, no, wait. And wait to see. I still have to count. And 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. Have your points. You know, if you do that, then if you give me that look, then I'm instantly just gonna say, right, you're an asshole. Fuck you. I'm still gonna score you properly, but it's a pet peeve of mine. Another pet peeve is when let's think. When people do something which is blatantly illegal, like, I don't know, they strike someone and they try and argue, say, "Oh no, it wasn't a strike. It's like, we all saw you. It was on camera. Come on now."
Yeah. I mean, I like the one where you mentioned about when they look at you for the points, and I've done it a lot, where if I've been refereeing and obviously you're waiting that 3 seconds and they move position, like they move within the 3 seconds, and then they get to that position and secure it, and then they move again quickly, and then at the end of the fight you'll go over and talk to them and you'll say, "Look, by the way, the reason you never got these points is because this is what you done." And their coach kind of, a lot of the coaches kind of know, look, you didn't secure position, you weren't there long enough, and sometimes that wins or loses fights. And then you as the referee, because you never gave the points, you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
So
we're always the bad guys. We're always assholes. I mean, I've seen so many posts on the day after competition, you know, fucking ref this, fucking ref that. And you know what? Half the times I will probably say, you know what, I see where you're coming from. Yes, that ref did absolutely screw the pooch. You know, I've made mistakes when refereeing, but I catch them during the match. I go, "Oh wait, no, actually, wrong points, wrong side," and I'll catch and say, "No, that actually is that." You know, you always fix it. But unfortunately, you know, in the UK, there's going to be a handful of refs who make a blatant mistake. Everyone sees it, and you know, it becomes the subject of much discussion, shall we say? Let's put it that way.
I mean, it happens at every competition. I mean, whenever there's a competition, regardless if it's a kind of local competition, right up to IBJJFs, ADCCs and stuff like that, NAGAs, whenever a competition comes, after every comp, somebody has something to say about the referees. And again, I mean, some of it is justified, some of it isn't. So, but yeah, referees were always the bad guy.
Yeah, always is. But hey, that's life. What can you do, eh?
Yeah.
It's a tough job, but someone's got to do it.
Yeah. And what's your best or funniest refereeing moment?
Christ, asking the tough questions now. This is some hardball.
I remember, I mean, there was one match, I remember this, but you probably remember it as well. I don't want to mention names, right? So, but I remember you refereed an ultra heavyweight white belts, right? And I think the guy went for a heel hook or some kind of thing, and then he jumped up. When you disqualified him, he jumped up and he started arguing with you on the mat. And he was much bigger than you, and you're standing there and like, just explain, look, this is what happened, this is how it happened, this is what you did. And I remember him raging, went away shouting and bawling and stuff like that. And I remember him coming up to you after it and apologising and saying, look, I was out of line, blah, blah, blah. So, so for me, that was probably the best moment, because as I said, that.
I mean, I've got to say that particular person, again, not naming names, he's actually a really nice guy. It's just that I understand being the mindset competitor. He didn't feel like he'd broken rules. I explained it to him calmly, and then his coach spoke to him and said, "No, you made a mistake here." And he was a real gentleman about it, and he's still competing, and he's a really good competitor. So, no worries there. I mean, I think some of my best moments as far as reffing goes has been reffing a lot of the SGI matches. They've been some of the tensest things to do, but also the most exciting to watch. And as a referee, I mean, you're up close. I mean, I've been kicked in the face several times. Like, if someone's doing a big back step pass, it's like I can't feel in the face, and it's because I want to see everything. It's like, what is actually happening? Like, and see the detail of it. I need to see what's happening so I can referee it properly, so I can catch it. Because so many competitors are sly motherfuckers, and I don't blame them. Any edge you can take, I get it. I mean, I've competed as well. I'll compete again at some point, you know, when we're allowed to touch each other again. So I understand it. Use what you got. The best moments have been refereeing at SGI. I think the funniest moments have been when I've been dragging people back to the centre of the mats and they're wearing gis. Because, you know, you get, especially the heavyweights, you know, I can say, all right, boys, hold on there. Perhaps they're stuck in a position they can't quite untangle from, or you know, it's difficult to say, okay, put your leg in that. But, you know, it's like human twist. It's twister, essentially. So I kind of have to grab their belts and then drag them across the mats. I think that's funny. That's my take on it. There you go. That's some of my best and funniest moments.
And then Rich Starching, I hope I'm saying that right. Rich Starching, what are your thoughts on IBJJF allowing heel hooks?
Well, I suppose I'm being cynical, but I think they've done it because they see there's competition coming from other organizations. They see obviously the sub-only tournaments like your EBIs, your Polaris, your Fight to Wins, all the rest of it are getting really popular, and they're thinking, hey, we should probably try and cash in on this a little bit. Let's not beat around the bush. The IBJJF is a private corporation. They're about making money. They are not the sole authority on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or grappling, and I find their rule set restrictive. And as much as I know how to referee their rule set, as a referee, I'm still like, this is bullshit. This is nonsense. You tell me black belts at Nogi, you can't do heel hooks? Come on. We all know the score here. Let's not be ridiculous. Obviously, letting white belts do heel hooks would be not the best idea. But, a bit of give and take. And I think even allowing knee bars at purple belt wouldn't be the worst idea ever. I don't know. I think it's a ploy for money, and obviously, whilst I welcome it, I welcome them opening up the rules a little bit, allowing some knee reaping. I still think it's for money, and I think it's a cynical move by them, frankly. And
it's well known. I mean, it's well known that you guys, you're not a fan of the IBJJF. It's well known
that. Where would you get that impression?
So, because obviously the IBJJF, just to give you the background, which most people will know, IBJJF banned the Globetrotters. Or refused to allow them into the IBJJF. Now, was it something to do with they didn't have a black belt coach?
Well, basically, the long and short of it is that if you were looking to register, you have to register underneath a particular academy in order to compete in IBJJF tournaments. The Globetrotters say, well, so long as you're a Globetrotter, you can register under us. And the kind of flashpoint for this, I believe, was when Christian Graugart developed the beltchecker.com website, where basically, you go on it and then people have to vote on whether or not you are actually the rank you say you are. So it's not a case of, it's not like Facebook where, any random dick can say something. It has to be a case of, well, for example, you have to get so many votes if you're this belt rank, and then more votes. For example, me, I have to get at least 1,000 points in terms of votes for me to be recognized on beltchecker.com as a black belt. So that you get the higher your belt is, your certified belt rank is, the more weight your vote carries. And it was around that sort of time the IBJJF was so you don't actually have a black belt, physically seeing the person, signing them off and all that. So if they're registered with the Globetrotters, they're not allowed to compete. So Globetrotters is off the IBJJF's list. You're no longer on the list. And again, that was seen as quite a reactionary move, given the fact that I think it's fair to say that that quite a lot of people never actually see their certifying black belt, to be honest with you. I mean, there must be numerous cases of people who only see their black belt instructor maybe like once a year, or sometimes once every few years. Like, for example, when I got my purple belt, my blue and purple belt from Hoyce, that would be like maybe once a year, or maybe even maybe once every 2 years we'd see him. So, what's the IBJJF going to do about situations like that? Nothing. I think basically they just felt, no, we're threatened. We don't like this. Fuck you. Get to. And that was it. Which is fine. And people will find ways around it, and people already have found ways around it. I know there's certain academies who said, look, if you were a globetrotter and you were planning competing at an IBJJF tournament, let us know and you can register with us and we'll sort you out. So the IBJJF isn't really going to gain anything from this. In fact, they're probably just going to hurt their own bank balance, which, it runs contrary to what they're about, which is making money.
I mean, it definitely did. I mean, he when that came out, I mean, the amount of, I remember I'm on the BJJ Globetrotters Facebook page, and when that came out, I mean, everybody that turned around and said, well, that's fine, we won't fight at an IBJJF competition. And I don't know how many they've got on the page, but everybody was united. Every single person on that page was united.
Let me put it this way. If the majority, if at least even half of the people on that page do what they say they're going to do, then the IBJJF, can expect a fair chunk of change no longer making its way to their pockets. So again, not a good financial decision for them.
Yeah. Lorna Kinnock, what's on the bottom of that mug?
Made it myself. I've got to be honest. This really started when they revealed, when the IBJJF said, you know what, blue belts and white belts are now going to have to get membership cards as well before they compete in our tournaments. And I remember Vanessa English speaking out and saying, this is nonsense. I was like, she's fucking right. This is bullshit. We're trying to get people into the sport and we're trying to lower barriers and let, at the end of the day, the way I see it is that jiu-jitsu is for everyone, but not everyone's for jiu-jitsu. So we should be open and inclusive, and we want people to come in and give it a shot. And it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, it doesn't matter who you love, it doesn't matter. As long as you come in, you're willing to put in the work, and as long as you're not a dickhead, then hey, the doors are open. Give it a go. Let's go. You know what I mean? Definitely. It doesn't matter, whatever has happened in your life. If you get choked out, you get fucking choked out. And that's what I love about jiu-jitsu. It is unifying. You know what I mean? You get strangled, you tap. It doesn't care what party you voted for. It doesn't care what the color of your skin is. A tap is a tap is a tap. The mats don't lie. That's what I love about it. It's unifying and it's beautiful in that way. A perfect example, actually, I remember, what was it? I think this was back in 2011. I was fighting at Naga at Paris. And I'd done different divisions, different days, and there were people observing prayers, but it was guys of different religious backgrounds observing prayers in their own way, and it's like, and that it really struck me. I was like, that actually doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are. We step onto the mat, someone gets tapped, someone loses, someone wins, but we all shake hands at the end of the day. You know what I mean? That's that. It's the great unifier. I think that's one of the things that's beautiful about jiu-jitsu. That is what it is for me anyway. It's beautiful. It brings everyone into the circle and it introduces everyone, no matter who they are, to the beauty of the gentle art. I use air quotes because it's not fucking gentle at all. No.
And then who's the GOAT?
And the GOAT in terms of what, I would ask?
Yeah, so I would say jiu-jitsu. So who would you say? Now, I got that asked this the other night, and obviously my GOAT was Roger Gracie. I mean, obviously, 10-time world champion, holds wins over some of the biggest guys. So he was always the GOAT. Obviously, a lot more people coming through now, different people and stuff like that. So who would, in your opinion, who would you say?
Well, we're talking about overall. As much as he's the boring choice, I suppose, historically speaking, we could always say Roger Gracie. Although I've got to say, whichever way you slice it, Gordon Ryan has been demolishing whoever you put in front of him. Marcelo Garcia, again, a record that you simply cannot deny. If we're talking about Scottish Jiu-Jitsu, I think if we're talking about the greatest of all time, I would actually have to say, in terms of being the godfather, one that the original OGs of grappling in Scotland, it's got to be Rick Young, because without him, would we really have had jiu-jitsu being as big as it is? No, he was the main man. He is main man as far as it goes. So that's kind of my estimations as to who the sort of GOATs, if you will. I'm sure that's up for debate. I'm sure some people will shout me down and say, "No, fuck you, you're wrong." But that's my take on it.
Yeah, definitely Scottish Jiu-Jitsu, the godfather of Scottish Jiu-Jitsu. Definitely Rick Young. I mean, he's been around for years. World champion, Jiu-Jitsu world champion at black belts, and I mean, he's done it all. I mean, he's been over in Brazil training, and I mean,
he's done Jeet Kune Do, he does Kali, Eskimo, kickboxing, so that he's a true martial artist. Always learning and always adapting. Absolutely, godfather. No way to put it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get him on this show. He'll get him on this show at some point. As I said, he's definitely one of the guys I want to reach out to. Rick, you don't see him mentioned that he's not on Facebook a lot, so not like I said, me. I mean, I'm on Facebook, trash talking a new person every day. So, so you don't see Rick Young. He's not on Facebook a lot. Obviously, he's. I
think a lot of these guys like to kind of walk softly and carry a big stick. From when I used to train at Rick Young's, he wasn't big on being loud and boisterous. He was always quite reserved, softly spoken, and then when he rolled with you, he would slowly demolish you. Terrifying to roll with, but excellent at the same time. So that's kind of just how he is, I suppose.
And Steve Brigg, fancy fighting MMA. I don't know if he's offering you a fight or he's maybe trying to set a fight up for you, but would you ever do an MMA fight?
I've done one MMA fight back in 2011 as well? 2011, October 2011, if I remember correctly. And it was a semi-professional match down in Nottingham at the Britannia Hotel. And I won it by doctor stoppage because I cut the other guy open on the jawline. I did it once, and then I tried training for MMA again, and then my body said, "No, fuck you, Giles." And as well as that, as someone very clever once said to me, said, "Giles, you're too nice for this." Because I don't know, I think I prefer to grapple people because I feel like I'm less likely to put them in hospital. But if I strangle them, it feels very gentle. I don't feel so guilty about it. You know, I was raised Catholic, so I've got a lot of guilt. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think I made the decision a long time ago to focus on grappling because that's my main thing. That's my bag. And also because I'm very vain and, you know, I like to stay pretty. I mean, I've already kind of got the ear on one side and my nose is a bit bust. So, you know, I don't need to make my mother worry anymore. You know what I mean? My mum's always like, "Oh, is that a lump on you? Oh, don't ruin that face." And so, I'm very vain. Typical Latin man, very vain. What can you say?
That takes on the next one. Somebody said bare knuckle boxing. He's got a bare knuckle face, as it looks like he's taken a punch too many. I don't even know if he's talking about me or you. But we do get comments like that from time to time. So
I actually think I look pretty good. You know, I don't think my nose is too busted yet. Actually, you know, I could still potentially be a model in like I don't know, a second-rate magazine or something like that, or one of those dodgy, you know, dodgy sort of wrestling or sort of semi-competitive wrestling bouts, I suppose.
Yeah.
The ones where you need to have a nickname. Where were we?
So favourite submission. What would you say? I mean, Giles. I mean, the one thing about rolling with Giles is what. Whenever you roll with Giles, you think, and people do mistake you when they come in, and it's happened a lot. You see it happening a lot. People come in and they think, look, Giles is quite small. Do you know what I mean? And I'm going to go in, and I mean, anytime I've rolled with him, Giles won't ever. So we'll start off, and then he ends up like a backpack. So I always laugh because it's like putting a backpack on. Giles is on your back, and he's just giving you a big hug. He's giving you a big hug, and then eventually you'll tap to that hug.
Yeah, I'm affectionate. That's it. I like taking the back because I feel safe. I feel like I'm slightly less likely to get dismantled by a larger person. I usually walk around 67, 68 kilos. It's kind of fluctuated over the years, but kind of hovers around that. And a lot of my training partners have always been larger than me. So I feel like when I'm on the back or I get to the back or at least I threaten it, I'm in a better position. And that's where parts of my game have kind of sprung from. Frankly speaking, I love a good old-fashioned rear naked choke. It's a beautiful submission with so many facets to it. I also recently I've started really enjoying knee bars. I quite like a good knee bar. I think it's an underrated submission. Again, it's great when you can catch it. But yeah, rear naked choke for me. That's my favorite submission. That's my go-to. I love it.
Nice one. And then obviously we talk about your black belt as well. I mean, you got your black belt. Anybody saw the pictures? If you've not seen the pictures, have a look. Giles is very, very emotional in the pictures. So tell us about how Christian came out, because obviously that's a good story as well, how he presented it to you.
Well, now, just going to give you a bit of background. I've been going to the Globetrotters camp since around 2013, and Christian's always done things a bit differently. Obviously, he's a very successful businessman. He's done all the camps, but he's also had literally hundreds of ideas and various projects he's done and businesses he's running, all that. He's even got his own sort of brand of clothing, which is good for jiu-jitsu, but also good for the beach, called Island Fever. So, you know, he's a man who's got a really creative mind. And what he does for the camps, for example, is when it's your 10th camp, you get a free pizza, and you know, he presents it in front of everyone on the final day, and, you know, free pizza. You get a patch now as well to sew onto your gi, and your next camp after that is free. So I went to the camp in Austria earlier this year. I think it was around January this year. And camp number 10, it was great. I got a fantastic pizza. You know, you said 10th camp, Giles, pizza is excellent. So fast forward to just over a week ago, and Christian was giving his sort of last open mat speech. And he says, you know, for camp number 10, here's your pizza here, Giles. And I was like, this is camp number 11. He says, fuck it, get a free pizza. And then he opens the pizza box. There's a fucking black belt in this fucking box. And the signatures are from him and all the other black belts, you know, signed with love. And at that point, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the video or you've seen any photos of me, but I'm just looking at everyone going, what? What the fuck is are you serious? And then obviously it hits me. I'm like, holy shit, he's giving me my fucking black belt. And obviously it's, you know, I never had any idea how I was going to react to get my black belt, but I was overwhelmed because it just felt like such a validation, because I've always taken the kind of hard path, I suppose you could say. As I've said to you before, I've taken the scenic route in jiu-jitsu. I mean, this is 13 years now, and I'm at my black belt. And as I said, it's because I've always done things my way. I've stuck to my principles. I've stuck to my guns. And whatever way you slice it, that's the way I've done it. And I can look at myself in the mirror and I can sleep soundly in bed at night for that reason, if nothing else. And that felt like a validation that, yes, I am doing something right. And to get it from my peers, from several of my peers, no less, it really overwhelmed me. Honestly, it did. You know what I mean? When I see the video every so often, it really catches me. And then I don't know what else to say. Frankly, it was really emotional. Yeah. I don't think I'll have an experience of that anytime soon. And yeah, I cried, which I'm not ashamed to say, obviously, because, you know, nothing wrong with a guy crying if it's for, you know, no. I mean, for example, Khabib, he wept in the cage after winning against Justin Gaethje, you know, because obviously it was his first and last fight with his dad, and it was for me anyway. That moment was so many things in my life had led up to that, because I've been doing martial arts since I was 6 years old, and that was a really big moment. As much as the black belt is a symbol of a new beginning, it's still a big thing, whichever way. So I was really emotional, and my thoughts were pretty scrambled when he did that. That was I gotta say, he got me so good. Like, you can see his face in one of the photos. He's like, I know something you don't. I fucking got you. And actually, Cristiana said to me, I think she said to me a day before, she said, Giles, when do you think you get your black belt? I was like, I don't fucking know. Like, who cares? Like, I just want to like suck less at jiu-jitsu. That's it. That's the whole goal. Suck less at jiu-jitsu, teach my students. Great, job done. And then obviously that happened. I was like, oh fuck. So
did Cristiana know?
No.
Right.
No, only the black belts knew, and I think the cameraman knew. So yeah, a complete and utter surprise. And I know some people were asking, what's with the kind of Aikido pants?
I was wondering that because I was thinking, why is he wearing them big pants? Why is he wearing them?
It was a joke, basically. Christian has worn them at the camps the past few times they've been there, and it's because we're at Zen camp. It's a Japanese village in the middle of Poland, so we don't take things too seriously. We like to, poke fun at pretty much everything, including ourselves. And so I thought, fuck it, I'm going to put them on for a laugh. You know what I mean? Do some Steven Seagal shit. Maybe just lock a few people. Have a laugh, take some photos, and then obviously, I get promoted whilst wearing these fucking things. Which I suppose means I'm not taking myself too seriously, which isn't the worst thing. And then, of course, getting launched by all the black belts was an experience as well.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
I mean, it was actually pretty good. No one broke anything. So yeah, it was special. Actually, it really was. I was overcome, frankly. And yeah, it was great.
What was your speech? How did your speech go?
I mean, gotta be honest, Jim, it's the same thing you'd expect from someone like me. I basically talked about how I've been doing it for ages. I'm sure the speech has been recorded by someone somewhere. But basically, I was saying that I've done jiu-jitsu for a long time. I've done martial arts for a long time. And whilst I've been doing martial arts for all my years, I've seen some good things and some bad things. And my goal has always been to create a place for students where it's inclusive and, whoever you are, as long as you're a good human being, a decent human being, you're welcome. Come in and just be a decent, upstanding human being with some ethics. That's the way it should be. That's what I try and do for the sake of my students, because I got students with different backgrounds, and I don't want them to feel unsafe. I want to feel, no, I've got your back. Don't worry about it. I've got you. You know what I mean? And there's some clubs throughout the world or throughout the UK, you might say, that aren't quite like that. For example, Roll the Same did a survey. I don't know if you saw it a few months back, but they said an awful lot of respondents they felt like their club didn't have the right kind of environment. Some people saying sexist, it's homophobic, all the rest of it, or some saying their instructors were racist. And I was like, well, at least at my club, I'm going to try and not do that shit. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm going to go fucking hog wild and try and pander like crazy. What I'm saying is just be decent and try and be inclusive. Try and be mindful of, the people you're surrounded by and the people you're trying to look after, and be considerate is what I'm saying. Try and have some ethics. And so I spoke to that, and then basically I kind of rounded off by saying, I'm glad that I found the likes of Christian and the Globetrotters, because Christian, again, he's a no-nonsense sort of guy when it comes to business, but he still looks after folk. You know what I mean? He genuinely gives a shit. And I think it's because he doesn't take himself too seriously. I think he realized that, just because we're black belts or because we're instructors or we got this position, it doesn't give us the right to rule over people or lord over people. Like I say to my students, it's like, people who call me professor, sensei, it's like, don't call me that shit. My name is Giles. It's a good name, so start using it. And I'm here to guide you. You come to me because you want to learn some jiu-jitsu and you want to escape your problems. Well, I'm going to give you some jiu-jitsu. I'm going to help you escape your problem. And also, I'm going to make you fucking laugh. We're going to have a good time. Life is going to be fucking pretty. And I'm going to help you deal with your shit. That's what you don't come to me for me to boss you about or give you orders or say, I got the big belt on, you must now all bow down and salute me. And I mean, obviously, you're a different stream. We have to make a statue of you, and I'll get a photo of you with a crown on, like Biggie Smalls. I'll kiss it. I'll kiss it every evening before I go to bed and bow before it. But generally speaking, I just want my students to come in. We're all adults. Let's have some fucking fun and let's learn some fucking cool shit. That's how it should be. And that was my speech, pretty much.
Nice. I remember you did say that to me, like, Stoom, see, the first time you come to my gym, I'm going to stop everything and introduce you as you come in the door. And I remember coming in, I think it was a Saturday, it was an open mat on a Saturday, and I've come walking in, and then as soon as you've seen me, you're like, everybody, stop. And there must have been about, 20 odd people on the mat, and you're like, King Stoom has arrived.
Yes, I have to give you your place. You're King Stoom. You're the undeniable king of trash talk of the UK, frankly. I've got a hail to the king in that respect. You know what I mean? So, I mean, honestly, the amount of stories I've heard from you of you winding up your opponents, it's legendary. Honestly. So, I kind of have to pay respect. I have to doff my cap to you, if you know what I mean. So yeah,
Nice.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And then, so a couple of questions as well. I mean, Fraser Clarke, namaste on behalf of Ronin Grappling members.
He's always doing, look, because my students don't like, basically I try and be quite upfront with my students to say, all right, I'm not into all this mystical stuff. I don't know if you know, I recently became a Yoga for BJJ certified.
You did, yeah.
And the guy who runs the course, Sebastian Brosh, he's really level-headed. He doesn't go for all the kind of mystical kind of chakras and gemstone shit. And apologies to anyone who's into the gemstones and chakra shit, but no, I don't believe in that. I think it's nonsense. And so I always say to my students, don't say namaste. Or in fact, my students purposefully take the piss. And for example, I say, don't call me professor or sensei. They now they've been joking for years now to build a fucking shrine. And what they actually did was they managed to convince one of the instructors to let them into the club tablet, for the Spotify and all that. And they've changed it to a picture of Elio, but instead of Elio, they've put my face and my body on the kind of picture instead, just to fuck with me.
Yeah.
So, I think my students feel comfortable, having a bit of a laugh with me, which is good. Kind of it keeps me honest and make sure I don't put myself on a fucking pedestal, which is always.
Well, I'd say that and saying that as you're saying that, we've had a lot of people, all right? So a lot of people. So we'll start with Davy Galbraith, Captain Giles. All right, we've got Chris Rettig, Messiah Garcia.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
There's Fraser Clarke again, Professor Giles. Who else? We've got Davy Galbraith, make a statue. Christiana saying make a shrine.
Fuck you, darling. Sorry, they're all fucking with me. This is basically just all my students and my friends. They're gonna fuck you now.
Gerard McLaughlin, haha, the shrine, Osa Sensei.
You might as well just flip through all these because it's all going to be the same old shit, like us, hate us, they ain't us, etc., etc.
So, but no, I mean, that just shows you. I mean, people coming on and people are listening, and obviously your students as well. I mean, it's good that your students can be like that with you. Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, we're all adults, right? They've got jobs and families and all the rest of that, and I'm not special. Obviously, I've known jiu-jitsu for a wee while. I know a bit, so you've come to me to learn that. So whilst I'm teaching, obviously let me teach you. So by respect, I mean as in don't talk over me while I'm teaching all the rest. Just try and at least listen to me when I'm saying something is a good idea, grappling wise. I'm not dogmatic, but we can be adults. We can have a bit of back and forth. You know what I mean? I don't want my students to ever think they can't approach me and be honest with me. So long as if they're coming to me with a legitimate concern, I want to feel comfortable. They can say, Giles, I got something from my mind, man. Can I speak to you? That's the way it should be. It should be open and frank discourse. And so I think I was having a wee laugh and a wee joke. As much as I kind of say, oh, stop it, don't call me professor, it's basically just one big joke because fuck it. So that's my kind of take on it, frankly.
In fact, they're still going. Just to let you know, they're still going.
they're just fucking with you now, honestly. Jesus Christ.
So, and then we had one there, Peter Knox. When will you become a real man and by growing a beard?
Obviously, he's comparing me to your standards, Stu.
Well, do you know what, right? I've said I'm not shaving until we get back to the gym properly. So this has been, 6-7 months? So I haven't shaved since, the 20... I think I shaved 22nd of March. And I remember doing it the day before. And then I think Friday was the 23rd of March. And then obviously the gyms went off and I said, look, I'm not shaving, so I'm not touching it. So I don't know what I look like. But yeah. So when are you going to grow a beard?
No, I'm not going to grow a beard because I want to focus on the moustache. I want one of those. I want when eventually I grow up and become a real boy, I want to have those Wyatt Earp kind of moustaches, one of the big walrus-looking motherfuckers.
Yeah.
John Gunther. He got me fucking pegged, so he has. No, I just want to focus on the moustache, and the beard is good, but it gets itchy sometimes, and as well as that with the masks and all that shit. Like when I start growing the beard out, it got really itchy, so I was like, "Fuck this! I'm just gonna shave it." And to be honest with you, shaving, because I use an old-fashioned like cutthroat razor because I like to live dangerously. That's one of the few moments in my busy day where I get some peace and quiet to myself. I like to pamper myself once in a while, take 10 minutes to myself, get the proper shaving brush out, proper soap, and just, go, yeah, there you go. And just shave it right down. Risk slitting my own throat in the process,
Right.
So that, so I like to kind of treat myself and just be clean shaven. Clean shaven, but with a good moustache. That's kind of what I'm going for. That's my aesthetic. That's my look.
That's your look. Yeah, well-groomed. Well-groomed.
I try. Thank you.
And then, Fraser, who's got the best facial hair in Scottish Jiu-Jitsu? So, do you know what? I was looking at this comment thinking, who did we look at that's got a good beard or a good moustache and think?
I like Mark Connors. Mark Connors got a good combination. I really like his. Mark Connor, obviously black belt, the grip. Fantastic combination he's got going on there. I know Dean Riley again. He's got a good facial hair combo going on.
Dean Riley's got a nice beard, a good beard. I mean, if you're looking at beards, then he's a nice beard.
That's a really nice beard. God, I don't know who else.
Do you know Dean will be happy with that because Dean self-proclaimed best-looking man in Scottish MMA. Self-proclaimed. So he's always telling everybody. I remember I went up and did the award for Fighter of the Year. It was for Louise Murray. Louise obviously in Portugal. So I went up and Dean accepted the award on behalf of himself. And the video was hilarious. It was like, Stoomboy, I want to thank you for this award. I know it says Louise on it, but I really know it's for me for being the best looking man in Scottish Jiu-Jitsu. So
he has a character. Bless him. He has a character, that man.
Definitely.
Those are my two votes. I think for best facial hair. I'm really torn. Obviously, I can't vote for myself. But yeah, those two guys, they're in competition. Maybe they'll have to kind of battle it out just to decide. I don't know if there's such a thing as a beard off, but who knows? There's a fucking Bake Off or some iterant thereof on the BBC at the minute. So who knows? But yeah, that's who I'm voting for.
Yeah. And then Katla saying you should get a mullet to match the moustache.
I would sooner shit in my hands and clap than grow a moustache, frankly. A mullet, I should say, sorry. No. Mullets belong to a particular area of time. I'm not doing it. Absolutely not. I don't want I don't want people to look at me and think, and think of, I don't know, Julian Banjos or some shit. It's not what I'm after. I like the kind of clean shaven look. I occasionally like to grow my hair quite long. In fact, before you met me, I used to have hair past my shoulders. Like it's long. I used to it was flowy, a little bit of wave to it. It's quite nice. And then I started doing jiu-jitsu, and I was like, shit, I can't do jiu-jitsu with long hair. And obviously, with a tear in my eye, I had to get my hair cut quite short. And now I keep it like this. So I've got just enough to play with and enough to kind of style. Because, again, I am quite vain. But no mullets. Mullets are not my future. Never will be. I'm not usually quite dogmatic, but that's a fucking no-no.
Davy Galbraith, do you light scented candles when you shave?
No, but I do use sandalwood scented products whenever I'm kind of styling my moustache and all that. So I still have a little bit of luxury. No scented candles. That's a bridge too far, Davy. Honestly. No questions.
Long live wrist locks. Also, why do you think they're considered taboo in jiu-jitsu?
Simply because people get caught with them and they get bent out of shape because they know it's legitimate, they know it works, but they feel stupid for getting caught in them. Simple as. There's so many techniques which are much maligned, like for example heel hooks, because people, I got caught. Well, that's not legitimate. It's like the little kid at school saying, well, I had keezies, so you can't touch me. It's like, no, it worked. It's quite immature, actually. To me, if a technique makes someone tap, it's legitimate. You know, people always talk about neck cranks, or they're not legitimate. No, they work. Yeah. If it works and makes people tap, a tap's a tap.
It's very true.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, if we're talking about effectiveness, if it does the job, then I'm not gonna, use it. You know what I mean? I don't want people to be kind of held back saying, "Oh, we've never done it this way," or "Oh, you can't do it this way." You can't. No. Like I did that way back in the day when I did karate. We were told you couldn't check kicks. You know, if someone was doing a roundhouse, you couldn't check kicks with a shin. It's like, but why? Because it worked. It works. Oh, well, you can't do that. Why not? That's not how we do things. If it works, use it. Simple as. So long as you're not breaking your training partners in half, as long as you're practicing it safely, go for it. That's it.
And then we've got one there. Have you experienced any physical or mental changes due to the enforced break from training? So Alistair Murray, his knees have grown hair.
Bloody hell. Well, I tell you what, the first thing I noticed within the first 3 weeks of stopping training was my right knee was killing me. I've torn my MCLs in both knees. So especially my right knee was fucking flaring up something awful. And I was at that point, I was like, right, I need to do some sort of physical training again, because it never really happened during jiu-jitsu. So I figured lack of activity, being forced to work remotely, did it. I also found that a lot of my little sort of niggling injuries went away, which was good. But I suppose in that weird way how we're all a bit mad, I missed the little injuries because it reminded me of just how much I enjoyed rolling. And that was the kind of physical aspects of it, that and a little bit of weight gain. But I think all of us have had to kind of deal with that in our own way. That's something that all of us can, well, most of us can speak to. There's some of us who've been able to stay on top of their weight. One of the other things I noticed in terms of mental health is I've been a little bit more cranky at times. And with my work especially, when dealing with things at work, I've been a bit more prone to losing my mind and, not snapping at people, but being a bit short with them and basically saying no, and just being generally quite unhappy. So I think that's the main sort of things I've noticed with the enforced lockdown or break from training. That's what I've noticed. Anyway.
Definitely. And one of the things you mentioned in that, obviously touching on as well, is mental health. Mental health's obviously at the moment it's a massive thing because it's affecting everybody, and we see it in a lot of jiu-jitsu. I mean, we get a lot of people coming through the doors, as you know, with mental health issues, whether it be depression, anxiety, PTSD from anybody that's been in the services and things like that. So, so in regards to you as a coach, how do you approach something like that with maybe a new student or something like that?
Well, for starters, I always try and be open. I mean, I've already kind of been upfront with my students, but I might as well say that I have dealt with depression and suicidal thoughts. For years, I have sought therapy at the Prince and Princess of Wales Hospice, who have been excellent. I've seen 2 therapists from there. They've given me so many healthy coping mechanisms. It's difficult. It really is. There's some times where I've been, it's been so bad, I've been unable to get out of bed or even so much as lift a finger. These sort of ailments are real. Just because they're not always clearly visible doesn't mean they're any less powerful or don't have a stranglehold on a person. So I always try and be upfront with students and try and almost signpost that if there's something you need to speak to me about, and please say something and know that it'll be done in complete confidence. That's another reason why I try and be open with my students and try and make it so that you can actually speak to me and not be like, I can't speak to him, he's the coach. Is it not? No, just drop me a line. Honestly, it's not people know it's not a big deal. And, I won't kind of bang on about it all the time, but every so often I'll say, guys, I'll speak to the mental aspects of training, mental benefits. And, I think a lot of people and a lot of students are aware that I have, I've kind of had some of my own little things to deal with, my own sort of issues to deal with. And hopefully that kind of gives them some confidence that they can come and speak to me. And whilst I'm not a licensed therapist, I can at the very least signpost, say, look, you need to speak to someone. Here's a really good resource. Here's some excellent licensed therapists. Here's people you can speak to. Because it is a massive issue, whichever way you place it, especially during the lockdown. It's massive. And in our community, there have been so many people who have been really struggling with it. So, yeah, I think it's an issue which we should continue talking about. A lot of people have been tackling the subject recently. I know Erin Harrell, black belt over in the States, she has Submit the Stigma. She has that kind of program going on over in the States. And I know people are doing similar things over here, which is excellent. And so, yeah, I think people just need to keep on talking about it, making it so that people don't feel like they're somehow permanently damaged or they're wrong for feeling this way. It's like, no, it happens to people, and it's more common than you might think. Don't worry about it. Speak to someone, lighten the load a little bit. Let someone help.
Yeah,
it's the way it goes. That's how I think it should be handled, and that's how I try and handle it as a coach.
I mean, it's one thing. I mean, that's one thing I know about you, and most people know about you. You're very open about your own kind of mental health issues. So you are open about it. It's not something that you kind of shy away from. You'll talk to people, and maybe if anybody else is having any kind of issues, that you if they reach out to you, you're always on hand to kind of speak to people. Yeah. You may not answer straight away, but you'll answer back usually within half an hour. Anytime I've ever messaged you, half an hour before you message me back at the latest. So,
I mean, at the end of the day, all I can do for people is sort of say, no, I can say to people, look, there are solutions out there. I can signpost, I can point them in the right direction. I can't, obviously, I'm not a therapist, so I can't fix all the problems for them. But I can at least say, no, hold a second, take a moment. There is a way out. There is a solution. Take heart. There's something that can be done. And I can say to them, look, there's these resources here. There's this here, that here, all the rest of it. Don't let it beat you. And I can't always respond to everyone all the time. There's all sorts of stuff flying about. I'm still obviously working at my job, my regular job, but I do try and kind of get back to folk if I can. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's never for want of trying. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And then your students. I mean, some of your students, man, they're still going about this. So, who have we got? Fraser Clarke. Who's your favourite student?
It's the one who doesn't ask stupid fucking questions on a interview. That's my favourite student. No, I love them all equally.
Craig Simpson, we bow to effigies of Giles.
Actually, Craig Simpson, he is the ringleader of all this nonsense. He's the one that's really been pushing for the shrine and all the that. He's the worst offender. He's really the cult leader. So any more messages like that from him, please just ignore them. Otherwise, we'll be here all night, Stim, honestly.
Yeah. And then we've got Jamie Tervitt, mutual friend. Haldor is looking to come to the UK for a match. Who would you consider a good challenge? And they're suggesting Sean McDonough, or maybe even a rematch with Freddie.
Sean McDonough would be good. Yeah, a rematch with Freddie could be interesting. But because I know, obviously Haldor's still training, and so is Freddie. And obviously Freddie has been in a real tear. So, and he's basically kind of throwing down the gauntlet to everyone. So, I don't know. I would say both those suggestions, Jamie, are pretty damn good. Yeah. Sean McDonough, that's a good shout. I'm sure there's other grapplers, however, in Scotland who could rise to the challenge. But I need to give that some thought. I'm not the best matchmaker. I'm a better ref than matchmaker. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And then it's MMA UK news, just touching on the kind of mental health aspect. So if anybody ever needs to talk to about anything, please reach out to someone. There's always someone or somewhere that can help you. As I said, even if it's just a chat, a cup of coffee, I don't know, a roll in the gym or whatever, go for a walk, anything at all. I mean, there's always someone there you can reach out to. So, and Cristiana just talking about, break the stigma. So hashtag break the stigma. And then Cristiana saying, favourite student? It better be her.
No, because Cristiana hates rolling with me. So I think it's just a thing with all like couples who train together. Obviously, Cristiana is also a really good grappler, but she fucking hates rolling with me. She says it because I'm an asshole, but I think it's just because my guard frustrates her. So. She's got a good guard passing game, but she fucking hates my guard because it's I try and make it as annoying as possible, I suppose. So I don't have a favorite student. I love them all equally. God bless them. But I love the ones who don't ask really silly questions a little bit more. I love them all equally.
Cristiana, I remember that every time I roll with Cristiana, especially Guy, she was starting to use the lapel. Which would wrap my lapel up, and whenever I went to move left or right, the lapel was stuck, and I'd be like, and it was always frustrating, always an absolute frustrating thing, because obviously, as you know me, I like to try and move about, but yeah, I mean, it was very frustrating to roll with, so it's definitely not Cristiana. So and then another one as well, Peter Knox. How quick can you tap Stoomboy? Now, he asked everybody this. He asked every single person this. So Giles goes easy on me. I'm pretty sure if he upped the tempo, he'd probably do it quicker, but he does go easy.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, it's just a case of I just want to get close to you, and and I remember at one point you made the claim that you can't choke me out. I was like, okay. You once said lapel chokes won't work. I was like, okay, great. I love a challenge, and then I thought, right, go on arrow time.
I did it with Dan Strauss as well. I mean, Dan Strauss was coming up for a seminar at Marcus's gym, and I remember you guys had set it up, and I remember Cristiana putting the post up, and I came on and said, Cristiana, when can I start calling Daniel Strauss out? And then Daniel Strauss came in and said, anytime you want. So
yeah, he's like, I'm your Huckleberry.
Yeah. And then I remember he was saying, we were talking about he was doing a guillotine, and I was like, you'll never guillotine me. And he's like, you want to bet? So I remember we came up and he went to do the guillotine, and I kind of tucked my head in, and he couldn't get it, but then he switched and did something else. And then obviously we came to the seminar at your gym, and that was a picture I got, was Daniel Strauss with me in a guillotine, and me like, yes. So,
what can I say? Stoom, you've always had a thing for calling out the biggest and the best. And you're the honey badger of smack talking in the scene.
It makes it fun for me. I mean, I always talk about jiu-jitsu. I mean, jiu-jitsu, it can be boring for a lot of people. I mean, anybody that's never watched it before, and you come in and you're seeing guys sitting in 50-50 guard for 6 minutes, try to go for heel hooks and stuff like that. It can be boring. So, I mean, and I always go into like jiu-jitsu competitions where if I can annoy my opponent up, it'll make him angry, and anger's an emotion, and you can't fight with emotion. You can't train properly.
You are touching upon something that people don't really talk a lot about, which is the psychological aspect of competing. It's something actually I found when I had my little run in 2018 was super helpful. I would, you get a lot of competitors who run out to the ref and they smack themselves all over the place and they get themselves fired up. I do things very differently. So I can, I basically, I do all my preparation beforehand. I do a lot of my mental prep, in the gym months beforehand, and I make sure I'm in the mindset, and it's a different aspect to my personality comes out. The bit that you're not used to seeing, perhaps, a bit that you might not like. It's an unpleasant part of me, but that is channeled into competing, and then that aspect does the work. It does the job in a very methodical and cold sort of clinical fashion. Other people have different methods of getting themselves geared up and ready to fight. But I've got my own, and I've actually done a lot of study over the years of stuff like NLP and various forms of meditation and all these little psychological things you can do. Even chaos magic and rune magic, for example. I know it's really esoteric, but I've read books on the subject which say that all these different rituals, it's not a case of you summoning power from the cosmos. It's actually you altering things inside your head to make you achieve a specific goal. And obviously, you're doing some Sun Tzu shit there by getting inside your opponent's head, just kind of firing in one way, getting them to have a sort of emotions of a particularly hit up nature, and then obviously you make mistakes. So, yeah, psychological aspect of the fight game or the grappling game is not really talked about enough, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember the one that kind of backfired on me was we went to the Euros 2019, and I came up against the guy, Juarez Santos, who at that time was the #1 guy in the world. And he came up against, obviously, it was me in the first round. And I remember I remember looking up at, who was there? Whoever was in my corner. And I remember saying, I'm going to wind this guy up. And I remember standing next to him and I was giving him the eye and the bullpen and stuff like that. And this guy was ice cold. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely ice cold. Nothing I did bothered this guy at all. And I remember going over to the mat, getting ready to go on. And I normally look over and I'm like, looking at him like, you ready? Are you ready? And I'm looking at this guy and nothing. He was focused and he came in and smashed me. So, but I couldn't get into this guy's head at all.
You're gonna get some guys like that. Some guys are just like they're like laser like. Some guys are fucking psychopaths.
Yes.
I actually did a presentation at a Globetrotters camp a couple of years back about how grappling sports came into existence, and from way back in ancient times, you've had like the warrior caste, and you've had people who are predisposed to fighting and or being risky as fuck. And then obviously, when a country or nation's had armies, when they've not got a war to fight, you need to do something to keep them entertained, because boozing and sleeping with people isn't enough to keep them entertained. So they got to, instead of fighting all the time, they organise tournaments, and the Egyptians loved to have matches with weapons that were slightly less deadly. Loads of ancient cultures did that. And so really, you're just always going to have these people like perhaps you and I to an extent, or more so, who are they're just made for this stuff, and they're just wired for combat. When they're not doing that, they might be polite people. When it comes to that, that's their thing. I suppose it's just the way we are.
Yeah,
really, as humans.
And like Craig Simpson saying, winding up or annoying opponents, you say, now's my time to shine. I mean, it works.
Can you just lock in before he? Oh my God!
I mean, do you know what, Craig? The winding up opponents, it does work to a point. I mean, there's a lot of fights a lot of jiu-jitsu competitions that I've been at where when I've been winding the opponent up for weeks beforehand, sending them private messages on Facebook. And
you don't showed up at someone's hotel room before.
Well, no. What happened was it was a guy went to the London Open to 2017, I think it was, and I was going to be going in the super heavy, but I ended up. I remember going in, and I remember the guy that I came up against. He says, "Oh, Stuart, I don't have a fight." And I said, "Well, what weight are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I think I'm about 110 kilos." And I was like, "Right, okay, I'm 103. So what I'll do is I'll stop cutting weight and then I'll come into the ultra division and we'll get it on." We'd never fought. Now we came up in competitions as white belts, through our blue belts and stuff like that. So he said, "Right, okay, let's do it." And I remember I registered and I copied him in, put the picture up saying that's me registered, and I copied him in, and I'm like, "Are you ready?" And he's like, "No." Right? He said no, and I was like, straight away, I've got him. I've already got him. He said no, right? Because obviously, even if you're not ready, you're going to say, "Of course I am. I'm ready to go." So I was like, I've got this guy. This was, I remember registering, I don't know, or changing the division. It was probably about maybe 6 weeks out, 5-6 weeks out. So for 5 or 6 weeks, I messaged this guy, I don't know, maybe every couple of days, right? Like, I'm coming to get you. This is going to happen. And he's saying, oh, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, mate, you're doing nothing, absolutely nothing. You're not taking me down. You're not doing this. So, and this went on for weeks. And then we got down to London and went into the hotel. And he was staying in the same hotel. And I was like, what? He's in the same hotel? And I'm like, I should go to the desk, find out what room he's at and go and chap his door. And then Marcos is like, no, Stuart, you've wound him up for weeks. Just forget it. And then we went out in the morning and his car was there and I'm getting pictures beside the car, sending him the picture like I'm in the car park. And this was, 7 o'clock in the morning, me and Peter Downs out in the car park, driving to go to the venue. And then...
That's how you start an actual fight. That's not how you start a grappling match. Like that's you kicking in the door of his house, just about. You know what I mean?
I remember getting to the venue and I remember waiting to go on, and all these people were raging. They were all angry. They were like, "Oh, he's fucking going to do this," because I was still at the side of the mat, like, "Let's go, let's do this." And this had been me hyper all day, ready. Do you know what I mean? Just let's do this. And then I remember coming on and. He was very much bigger than me, and then he tried to take me down, and I think I'd won by an advantage. And after it, we were friends, man. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. We were chatting away, and we
didn't stab you in the car park after the tournament.
Nah. But he knew what was coming, man. I mean, he came through. He'd kind of seen, obviously, some of the stuff that I'd done, just talking shit to people, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's fucking do it. And I mean, it works. I mean, it worked for me. I mean, some of the guys I've fought are massive, couldn't take me down or couldn't do this. And again, was it the mental aspect? So I don't know. But as I said, I've always been a firm believer. Anger's an emotion and you cannot fight with emotion. So it's like love, anger, frustration, all of these things. Do you know what I mean? You can't concentrate on what you're supposed to be doing with these.
They're useful emotions, to be sure. You know, for example, I'm a really big fan of Henry Rollins, the artist. Obviously, he was in bands like Black Flag and whatnot. And he talks about anger, and his anger and frustration fuels him, but it drives him to improve. So, you know, he strives to kind of study harder, read more, and do more, and be more. And I think for me, frustration actually drove a lot of my sort of early success and how I got on. Like it was always like a yearning to be better. Like I remember after my first competition, I was like, right, I got caught with a triangle in my first match, and then my instructor basically he said to me, Giles, next time you get caught with a triangle in training, I'm going to make you do press ups. I was like, right, okay. So I was like, oh, I got to suck less, and then it just kind of spurred me on to train more and do more and study more and just be more conscientious. So I think those emotions are useful if they're channeled right. That's the key, really. You know, anger, frustration, all these different things, they're useful if you can use them. If they're just leading you to, to have bad behaviors, like, I know, lashing out at loved ones or, wrecking furniture, then that's not useful. It's got to be useful, what you're trying to achieve. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And then David Galbraith saying that's how you end up on his revenge list. So maybe one day, but listen, I've already got a victory against him, so I'm okay with that. And then one of the other things as well, somebody was asking, do you set goals for yourself in terms of development in sport? And what's next on a personal level for you now that you've attained the black belt?
Actually, I'm very glad someone's asked this because I actually keep a diary and a sort of journal with different goals and whatnot. And I don't want to give too much of the game away, but I take loads of different notes and I actually go through different flowcharts and I create flowcharts. So, for example, I'll create flowcharts to techniques, like, for example, the crucifix one I taught at Zen Camp. Mm-hmm. So I'll go through charts and I'll study DVDs and I'll go through stuff. And I'll also then set myself goals. And there's a really good black belt called Shanti Abelia. She is based over in, I think she's based over in Sweden, if I recall correctly, at Hive BJJ. And she talks about the kata methodology in order to sort of achieve goals and all that. And long story short, basically, you want to have a process of improving. Like, you set yourself an ambitious goal, then you set yourself a sort of smaller milestone goal that's a bit more achievable. And for me at the minute, I really want to focus on understanding concepts of jiu-jitsu and sort of condensing them. I think a lot of grappling, there's so many different underlying principles which underpin so many techniques. Like, for example, the principle of the underhook. Underhooks, generally speaking, are a good idea when you're standing grappling. They're a good idea when you're passing guard. Like, say, for example, if you're using a knee cut pass, generally speaking, having an underhook means you're less likely to get caught with something, or your opponent's less likely to escape. So that's an example. And that's something I now want to focus on. So I'll do that by, I'll create an environment to do that. So, for example, obviously we're in lockdown at the minute, and I can only really roll with Cristiana. So I'll roll with her, and I'll say, okay, I'll try and have a principle in mind. I will focus on this principle today, principle of underhooks. So I'll seek to always get underhooks from various positions, and then I'll write it up and say, okay, did this actually work? Was I successful with this? What happened here? So my goal is to understand principles of jiu-jitsu and concepts so I can simplify things and then pass it on to my students.
Yeah.
In the past, we've had 10, 20 years ago, you might have had DVDs on jiu-jitsu by different black belts, and they've thrown 1,000 techniques at you and they've given you all the hows. And hows is good if you're just starting, but I think you also need to know the why of why a technique works. Why does a sweep work? Because they can't post and they have no balance. All right, so the balance principle is a good thing that you should always be aware of. I'm sure you've been in situations before where you've done a technique that's not quite like what you've been shown, or you've never really been shown it, but you've done it and it works because it's based on principles. And that's something I'm striving to kind of figure out now as well. I'm always trying to kind of codify what are the principles of grappling, what is the kind of underpinnings, and then once I've got it down in paper, I'll kind of experiment with it. It's okay, is this actually a principle, or am I going nuts? And I'll experiment, try it out, watch DVDs, read stuff, and then eventually I'll go, right, I'm confident I can take this to my students and say this works. So that's kind of one of my goals now, and it was my goal before I even knew. Before the black belt, and it's still my goal now because I think it's really important.
David Gabriel, does Cristiana read your charts and target your weaknesses?
Well, Cristiana already, I'm sure she already knows my weaknesses and all my sort of little quirks and flaws. So, she probably knows that I don't like some of her heavy stack passing. Oh yeah. She's commented. Nah, I just use all my rage. Yeah. She's ready. She hates rolling with me. God bless her. I am quite able to roll with, I suppose. Yeah. That's actually a very solid question. No. Oh, see Barry's chimed in there.
Yeah, best referee in the game. Wish you wore the white and black the stripes while you do it.
I suppose if James McIntyre was to one day turn around to me and say, Giles, we've got new uniforms for Scottish grappling competitions, I would say, excellent, my time has come. We finally arrived at the promised land, but, I think it would be a bit much. Maybe we'd be straddling a line between, professional wrestling and proper sporting events. I don't know. But thank you very much, Barry. That's very kind of you. I do try. And also big up to Barry, excellent competitor and excellent youth coach as well, up at SMAC.
And then excitement of Stevie Ray likely being more active on the grappling scene since retiring from the highest level MMA.
I mean, obviously Stevie Ray, he talked at length about his knee problem and about how he's retiring from MMA for that reason. I think there's too many people who sleep on Stevie Ray, frankly. If you saw his submission win over Paddy Pimblett, that was a work of art. That was beautiful, frankly. That was like a watercolor by Monet or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he got Stoomcast male submission of the year last year for that very submission. So,
frankly, he's all around excellent at what he does, and he's an absolute student of the art. If he decides to go into grappling, I'll be super excited to watch. I love watching him work, frankly, and so it'd be very exciting to watch. I am personally very excited to watch it, and I actually do grappling competition breakdowns for my students. So I'll actually sit down and I'll pour over a match, see maybe like a 10-minute match for about 2 to 3 hours, and kind of unpick things and write notes and kind of go back and forward, and then I'll discuss it with my students as I go through the match and signpost things. He's actually planning on doing a breakdown in one of his matches, probably the one against Paddy, because again, work of art, love it.
Beautiful. It was awesome. I mean, not just that. I mean, that's it. When he went in and beat Paddy, I mean, obviously the English kind of media and stuff like that, Jiu-Jitsu, when they were talking about it, had completely written him off. But everybody in Scotland, hold on a minute. Do you know what I mean? Like, why are you writing him off? I mean, he's been doing it at a high level for years. Obviously, doing it in a UFC, top grappler in Scotland as well. And then
he's such a veteran of MMA and grappling and of martial arts in general. He's got an absolute wealth of experience, and as I say, people have been sleeping on him, and especially his grappling capabilities. He competed against Ellis Younger in SGI many years ago, and that was a decision loss. But that was the only thing, and that was years ago. And ever since then, he's just kind of said, "No, I know my stuff," and he's been beating people. You know what I mean? He knows his shit inside out. So yeah, massive. You know, I mean, obviously,
Scottish MMA.
In terms of representing Scotland in the UFC, let's not forget Joanne Calderwood. She's got a fight coming up soon as well, if I recall correctly, in January. The UFC, and obviously Robert Whiteford did excellent for us as well. Then of course Paul Craig as well. He's pulled up some real sort of really exciting sort of wins. You know, pulling him out at the last minute and stuff like that.
Just somebody they're talking about Stevie Ray. So again, Ray's win over Paddy the Baddy dictated the higher levels guys at the following SGI. So
yeah, I mean, obviously big up to Stevie Ray, and obviously also big up to kind of knowledge he's working with, because he is working with James Dolan, who, I mean, let's be honest, when it comes to MMA, he's one of the best in the country. He's at higher levels. His facility he's coached world champions, so we've got to give massive props to him, because he's working with Stevie. And then of course you've got a lot of talent there. I've already mentioned Cameron Donnelly, so yeah, sort of a real sort of collection of really great talent. And then of course you've got the guys from the grip in Glasgow. So yeah, this all I suppose all feeds back to my point about how Scottish grappling and Scottish combat sports as a whole is very mature, and it's got a wealth of talent, and no one can deny that. People we fear it, frankly. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going up against a grappler from Scotland, you're in for a fucking fight, and we'll fucking take you. We will. It doesn't matter where you're from. We will fucking take you. Simple as. So
definitely. And then, obviously, final thing for you then, Giles. I mean, somebody put a comment up. Try to find it there. It's talking about what's next for Ronan grappling. So, what do you see? What's your future?
Well, eventually, obviously, things are kind of starting slow at the minute, and COVID hasn't really helped matters. But I'd like to spend more time, dedicate more time to. I already spend quite a lot at the gym, or I was anyway, when we weren't in lockdown and we didn't have restrictions. I want to be spending time with my students and just kind of guiding them. I think, as far as I'm concerned, I have found my calling. I have found something that I really enjoy, and I think I can do well at. And I want to pour my energies into coaching my students. I remember one time years ago, I came home from a training session, and I came to my mum in tears, and I said, and she was like, "Why are you crying?" I figured out what I want to do. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and that's it for me. You know what I mean? I think for Ronan, I want us to keep on being a gym with good people, working hard, working smart, and trying to always study and figure out things and kind of unpick the puzzle that is grappling. Have students compete in all the different rule sets. and also keep on providing somewhere where I think you can have a gym where people compete and are competing and training hard and rowing hard, but also for people who might not want to compete, but they come in because they enjoy it. It's social. It gives them something that they can't get anywhere else. It kind of gives them something to look forward to, or it helps them deal with difficult aspects in their life. I think a gym can be that. It can be all those things to different people. And as a kind of coach and the main guy at the gym, I hope to make sure my gym is the best place for people, regardless of what their sort of goals are. That's. I just want to basically keep on growing, keep on doing what we're doing, work hard, work smart, and look after our people. That's really what I want to do. That's my goal for the future. I've got sort of goals written down of what I want to achieve. I'm working on developing my skills as a coach, because obviously I've got a lot to do in terms of my coaching style, my technical knowledge, how I teach people, how I explain things, how I put things across, how I structure and shape my students' training, all the rest of it. So that's the exciting part of the process, and learning how to do that better so I can be better for them. And also developing my own skills and my own knowledge, because at the end of the day, I'm doing this because I love it. It saved my life. I mean, obviously, about the time I got attacked a few years back, and Jiu-Jitsu stopped me from getting my fucking head stomped in, which is excellent. So it saves lives, physically speaking, and it can also save lives and mental and emotional aspects as well. So this is something I'll be doing until I'm dead, most likely. And touch here, I would. That's not for a while yet. So
definitely. And then last thing for you, anybody you want to thank for obviously your time? So anybody you want to say thank you to?
Well, I suppose firstly I've got to say thanks to my students for always sort of being behind me and supporting me for all the decisions we made. The kind of guys at the gym who've are helping coaching classes and all that. And Cristiana for always pushing me to be better. She'll always support me, and she'll always say, you can work on this better for classes. She'll always give me honest critique, which is important. She's always upfront with me and honest, but supports me. And she'll make sacrifices to make sure that I can be the best I can be. And she's always does so much for the club in the background. My parents, obviously, because I'd like to think they've done a pretty good job in making sure I don't turn out to be a complete arsehole. And obviously I hope that they're proud of me. Fingers crossed. Obviously I've had a few coaches over the years who've influenced my game in different ways. I've got to give props to Stevie Robinson over at Marin's Castle Martial Arts. Isn't very active in social media, but he's influenced so much in terms of how I teach and how I do things. Richard Cotterill, who teaches Balintawak and B3 systems, combat systems. He's influenced my teaching style so much. And how I teach my students now is the same methods he gave me. And I suppose Christian as well, Christian Graugart, for being a friend and, always supporting me and giving me great advice, and for being a good human being. And the community at large, really, I've got to say, actually, in all honesty, the community in Scottish BJJ has always been super supportive of me. I've always tried my hardest, and whenever I put an event on or something like that, the community's always backed it. I can't really state enough just how thankful I am that the community is so active in Scotland and in the UK as well. And people, when I put on a seminar, people have come and supported it, or when I'm doing something, people have always backed it. And it's just, there's too many people to thank, Stu. Too many people to thank. And obviously, you're on that list. Thank you for interviewing me, for getting that a little bit of time from your very busy schedule. Honestly, much appreciated, and it's lovely to see you again. Hopefully, we can have an hour mandate soon. That'd be great.
We'll get a mandate soon. How's the kids anyway? How's the kids doing?
They're good. They're back at school. They're enjoying it. One of them's kind of enjoying it. The other one's kind of like, this sucks. Get me out as soon as you can. They're a bit bummed about Halloween, not being able to go out guising as they like. but they'll do online things. They're doing good. They're kind of coming into their own now, and one of them has indicated that they may or may not want to do some kickboxing at some point. So,
nice.
So I'm hoping I can say to them, all right, well, off of kickboxing, you do have takedowns, and off of takedown, I'm trying to shoehorn them back into grappling.
Okay. Definitely. Well, I said to Faith when she's about maybe 14, that's a couple of years, so she'll be straight back into it again. So straight back in. So definitely. But no, listen, Giles, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. As I said, I've got the honour I can speak to you at any point, at any time. So. Yeah. But for you to come on and obviously share your some stuff with the community at wide, obviously answer some people's questions and things like that. So thank you very much for that, Giles.
No, absolute pleasure. Anytime. And if anyone after this, has actually any legitimate concerns, anything they want to come to me with, like I don't mind being messaging Facebook. As long as it's not something like what you're wearing underneath your trousers. As long as it's not something good, then I'm happy to honestly answer people who've got legitimate concerns. I do try and be open with folk, and I do try my best to wake up each day and be a little less of a dickhead than the day before. So
nice one.
Anytime.
All right, Giles. Pleasure again, sir. All right, and we'll speak to you soon.
All right, yeah. Right, Stoom. Take care, King Stoom. Oh, Captain, my Captain. I'll see you later.